So what we're doing here is we're adding Babbitt into a set of recently poured bearings. As these bearings come out of the molds, this area shrinks back slightly, so when the bearing halves are put together, you end up with a slight gap in between the bearings. So what we need to do is flow some Babbitt in and solder it onto the top of the bearing and then cut it back with a file. What we use is sticks of Babbitt that have been poured into a thin stick and a soldering iron. We'll start by putting a layer of Babbitt down that's not necessarily bonded, but that gives us something to work with on top of the bearing. It takes a fair amount of heat to do this. We're going to want to warm our shell up as we work. The critical thing here is not to overheat the shell, not to overheat anything, because if we slump our Babbitt off it, we have to go right back and completely remold the entire bearing and start again from the beginning. So we're controlling our heat using a combination of gun and soldering, very light soldering torch here. And now we're going to try and come in and melt the two together to get ourselves a very thin layer of Babbitt that now lets us cut it back. And when we cut it back, we will have a perfect joint fit between the two bearings and can put in our chamfer and so forth. Very important that both the Babbitt metal that we're putting on and the Babbitt that's already on the shell get melted together, so that there's not one that's failing to stick to another. That's why I have a little gray tinning compound down here and some flux mixed in with that. You note we're getting a little bit of a lip here as we go, and that's good because that gives us something to file off of. There's the Babbitt placed. Here's what it looks like after it's been poured on. This is now proud and it's bonded nicely to the Babbitt itself. We'll be filing that back smooth so that when our completed bearing is ready to have its crush set, we have an absolutely perfect fit here, and you can see that this is dead flat. Here's the bronze of the shell itself and the Babbitt itself ready to be rough finished. This is a set of bearings for a 680 Mercedes, not our usual thing at the Vintage Garage where we tend to specialize in Rolls-Royce and Bentley. But when interesting projects come up, we definitely like to work on them.